unique mission type you have that's not just base building defending? Is there anything that's like ultra unique to the other game types?
Well, we have a so everything in the game is really based around exploring, building, or defending. The core of Fortnite is exploring, building, defending. That's the core. And then from there, what we've done is we have 3 different game types that either flex on explore, building, or defending. One of the ones that we found that players, both in our online test and in players that come in and play at Epic that we watch, they really enjoy this building. This basically, it's kind of like playing, doing a Lego.
Yeah.
You know, they're basically, we lay out a design in the world, and then they have to build all the pieces for it.
Oh,
and
that's
so,
cool.
and they love it. It's just, it ends up being something that we see players go back to again and again. And so those will show up as what we call secondary missions within a mission, but there's also one dedicated just to being able to build those.
So like it was so popular, you integrated it into the other missions.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
That's awesome. So tell me also about characters. What kind of character customization? What different characters are there? Do they have any different abilities? Anything like that?
Yeah. So we're basically a hero system, and so but all those heroes are based on 4 class archetypes. So there's the soldier, which is exactly what you'd expect. There's a character that has grenades, can summon a giant chain gun at the right time. There's our outlander, which is an explorer character. They have the ability to see treasure through walls, and generally harvest materials quite quickly. So they're really an explorer archetype. Then we have our constructor, which is everybody in the world of Fortnite can build, but the constructor is really good at amplifying fortresses, and they can add the ability for bases to walls to deliver damage when they're attacked.
Whoa.
They can auto regenerate walls that have been hurt, like those kind of things
That
over
sounds
time.
OP.
Yeah, we've had an interesting time balancing that. Actually, it's funny you bring that up. It's funny you bring that
and
up.
then the 4th class.
And then the 4th class is our ninja, and that is a melee fast mobility class. It's about getting in and out of fights quickly. Generally, we can talk a little bit more about our enemies later, but they're the guys that you send out to destroy artillery units and then back out. So they're very fast-moving classes, and they have double jumps, so they can move throughout the world quite fast.
I feel like 3 builders and 1 soldier sounds like the prime combination there. I would just be like building up a base and just constantly repairing walls over and over and over.
Yeah,
and over
well,
again.
again, the scope of the game is big, and so we sort of give the players a bunch of tools, and then we let them solve the problem however they want. So if you want to build giant forts to solve your problem, and it's all traps all the time, that's fine. If you're like a bunch of people who are just like, we're all soldiers, we're going to build as little as we can and rely on our shooting skill to do it, you're welcome to try.
It fits your play style.
It's just about whatever play style you want, whatever group you're rolling with. Yep.
What about you guys individually? What do you guys tend to do? Are you more trappers, builders? Are you more action fighters?
Oh man, for me, it's definitely like, it's funny because when I initially started playing Fortnite probably 3 years ago, very heavily, I've played constructor most of the time, building. And then as I've gotten into this last playthrough that we do, because we restart the game all the time, and so in this playthrough right now, this character here is probably 80 hours in, and I've mainly just soloed the soldier, the entire time, and I'm just loving it. And so each of the play styles is just incredibly different. Sort of your role on the field, what you do. The one that I've never played just because I know so many players played as Ninja. But our players love Ninja so much. So
we see this rainfall here. And you mentioned that the world is procedurally generated. Tell us about the weather and how the world might change as we play.
Yeah, so there's two big things, like the way our procedural generation system works is that back in the day, we had a lot of really awesome level designers from the sort of the Gears era and UT era, and we were like, well, how do we integrate all this level design know-how with a game world that should be sprawling and big? And we have a comparatively small team, and so what we decided to do is that they created tiles that basically they sculpt individual buildings, and like so when you go inside these buildings, they are hand tooled, but then there's a puzzle piece system that reassembles all those pieces together to create the game world.
Cool.
So it's pretty cool. So it's not.
Look at the lightning.
Yeah, that's that's awesome. I was like, our particles are so.
Yeah, the
awesome.
particle effects are beautiful. Is there any competitive aspect to this? And that could be clear time. Is there a 2v2, a 4v4 possibility?
So that is absolutely what we're going to end up doing. Is that we're in the process of planning some of our new events, and we've run some events in the past where we effectively have what we consider a base in a box, and that means like you get to go onto a game board with other people. There's three or four other people hanging out. You build your base, and what happens? You save it, and then those bases get loaded into a game board map, and effectively you play a horde defense against that with that thing that you've already built. And so what we're hoping to do is be able to have teams compete for speed times, how long they can last.
cool.
Do it. And so our event system, I think that's the first thing you're going to see of the first types of events, so people can push themselves, how far they last, what kind of defenses they build, or they rely upon their shooting skill. Again just waiting to see what happens. But I think that'll be the first sort of competitive aspect you'll see in the world of Fortnite.
That sounds really fun. And tell us a little bit about these enemies we're seeing. We know the general lore behind them, but are there any that we can shout out that are particularly?
Well, that's our pitcher right there, who just got destroyed by that trap. But the pitcher is basically our ranged class. They throw bones at the player, and so you have to avoid them getting them out of the way. Those are there's a basic husk there, which is basically the swarm enemy of Fortnite. They come in giant packs, and you just have to get rid of them.
Is lightning summoning them?
Yep, they absolutely.
That's so cool.
Yeah. The storm shoots lightning into the ground. This is a blaster right here, which is effectively the machine gun of the Husk army. And if left alone, he will fire tons of shots at the players and really decimate them. But Zach's in close range, which is good, and so he's trying to clean them up before he gets too close.
Do mobs have different stats when you have more players in your team? Like, are they harder to defeat if you have 4 players instead of just yourself?
So the way we're going to handle that is we're going to push in group areas where you can just select to play up-level creatures at that point. One of the interesting things is later on is that we had, and maybe we'll tinker, everything in Fortnite we're always experimenting with and to try to come up with a good experience. But there's a little bit of like, well, we want it always to feel better. Oh, there's a Smasher over there, if I can interrupt myself. The Smasher is they wiped him out.
Did we just pull him down
Yeah,
already?
good.
Nice.
What just happened?
All right, so 2 things just happened there. The players use one of their gadgets. In that case, it's an airstrike. So they just dropped a bunch of the stuff on the Smasher. And the Smasher is one of the siege units of Fortnite, of the Monsters army. Is that that will come in and destroy all your fences. It does a huge amount of damage to your fort. So you really want to keep it away from your fort's walls. In this case, they cleaned it up before it could even get close, which is good. So that those are the big creatures. And basically, there are 2 creature types in the world of Fortnite classes, basically. And there is the Husks, and then there are the Mist Monsters. And the Mist Monsters are generally more powerful. They've got all kinds of different abilities. The Taker is a sort of a class that will fly in and dive bomb the players and deal a lot of damage. The Smasher is a siege unit. We also have the Flinger, which literally picks up creatures around it and throws throws the husk on top of your fort. And what ends up happening is those husks burrow down from the top into your fort. So you have to pay attention to both the ground level and the top. And so those are the creatures you begin to experience as you go. And right now we're actually just tinkering with the difficulty, trying to maintain like, hey, we want it to be fun early on and solvable. And so our creature patterns we're going to be working out right now. But rest assured, there's actually a lot once you start cooking at the mid game.
Well, speaking of when we start out, when we start playing, when can we start playing? Where can we get our hands on the game? Give us the stats.
All right, so we are going into paid early access on July 25th. We are on PC, Mac, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One.
Wow.
And so we had as I was saying earlier, we really wanted to get the game out to everybody, so we get to do that. If you pre-order, you get in on July 21st, and so you can play earlier for that weekend. Come hang out. We've got a community of people that have been playing Fortnite for a while. We wanted to give them the opportunity to sort of get in early too. So those guys will be in there. A lot of our founders. So that should be pretty cool. What else do we want to talk about? Is
there anywhere that people can follow along with the game on social media or a website or anything like that?
Yes, definitely. If you want to check out Fortnite, that's just go check us out, basically, right on our website.
Fortnite.com.
Yeah, Fortnite.com.
Awesome.
And you can check us out through Epic Games. We're out there. We should talk about the Twitch stuff, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're doing something unique for you guys.
Yeah.
Really quick, because we do have to toss, but tell us, Twitch
All right,
is
I'll tell
always
you
a
the
good
truth.
hook.
So we are going to integrate into our system the ability for Twitch streamers to have unique quests that they can give to their viewers.
Oh, that's awesome.
And then those viewers then get those quests, and then they can get unique missions to come into the game world and have unique gameplay.
That Twitch integration.
For the Twitch integration. So we're working on that. I'm not sure when it's going to land, but it's going to be soon, and I'm excited about that kind of stuff. I think this is a cool game to watch, and so we're going to hook you guys up.
Stay tuned to Fortnite. Find out more about how they're going to integrate Twitch. That sounds amazing. I'm also just excited to watch this game. It's very satisfying to watch, so will be a great Twitch game. Stay tuned, though. We have lots more coming your way from E3 on Twitch right after this.
I want to say thank you, Anna, but you didn't actually throw it to me. So thank you, Fortnite team. It looks great. I love the Twitch integration. It sounds awesome. And we are moments away from the Ubisoft press conference. I'm DJ Wheat, joined by Rachel.
And we're only moments upon moments away from the Marcus Consolation Pity Party when they fail to announce Beyond
Let's
Good and
just
Evil.
get it out of the way. I really want Beyond Good and Evil 2. For the last 3 years that we've been doing major coverage on Twitch, it's been this up and down roller coaster of emotions. And
where it's been completely ignored, if I'm not mistaken.
This year is no different, but it hasn't been ignored. They basically said it will not appear at this E3. So I've been going back and forth, yeah, maybe they just said it to say it.
Was that an official announcement, or did that begin with Marcus,
No,
mind break?
it came directly from Michael Anson, I believe. So it was. But now, suddenly, as we're moments away from the press conference, there's an additional rumor that's coming out.
What's that?
And that is that potentially we might hear an announcement of Watch Dogs 3, possibly set in London. And, popular enough to get the second game set in San Francisco. Is this, another new franchise that Ubisoft sort of adds to that, Far Cry repertoire?
Yeah, I mean, Watch Dogs is big. They made a huge world. They've got a lot of unique factors just in their Watch Dog universe. I really enjoyed the first game, but I feel like the last game just came out.
That's why I'm a bit surprised. It's just a rumor. It's
got my
not
skeptical eyebrow for that one.
So far, rumors have actually not been batting too well here at E3, especially after Bethesda last night. So the other rumor that seems to be a bit more legit, because we've seen some art, is the whole Mario Rabbids crossover game, the Kingdom Battle. And there was another leak from a retailer that said from Ubisoft. So our speculation was that maybe Ubisoft would be the press conference where this would land, and it's starting to look like that is going to be the case. So
there's a lot of mystery around this one. I think there's
weird.
unanswered questions. This is a big reason to watch this.
This is kind of bad news going into it, but Aisha is not going to be hosting.
I'm out, Marcus. I'm leaving. Bye.
Yeah, I know. Is a little sad. It came out a little bit ago. Actually,
love her. She's
a week or so ago.
indispensable.
She's was perfect for everything they did. So we're gonna have someone new there. Not sure what to expect, but a lot of the internet buzz, which Rachel we've been keeping good track of.
Indeed. There's hashtag E3 on Twitch.
Assassin's Creed is typically one of those titles where it's boom, the fan base is
it's like a Call of Duty. You drop it and they swarm, right?
Yeah. So the question that a lot of people are asking is are we as excited for this game as we thought we might be? And this is a question we want to also ask you via poll. Are you excited for Assassin's Creed
Origins? Are you guys
Origins?
excited? Wow.
Yeah. I mean, to get a gauge right before we get started, a simple vote yay, vote nay, and we'll see kind of how you guys stack up. However, I guarantee you that most of the chat is excited for this title, South Park Fractured But Whole.
I'm excited for that one.
I mean, everyone really loved the first game. It was such a fun game to stream. It was such an uncomfortable game to stream at the same time, but it was great all the way through. I think obviously the superhero hero approach to it too.
You remember when they made me and Zeke do the Nosculus rift?
We were talking about it this morning.
I smelled that fart smell for the following month. Like
No,
it was.
Zeke said it wasn't. It couldn't even be classified as a fart smell.
I had that. He took his nose thing off after 2 seconds too. Like it was like a vomit, like a putrid. Anyway, it's a great game, and they've done a lot to promote it.
So initial reactions to the poll is it's looking a little bit more for the nays.
That's okay. So I understand there's 2 camps. There's like I don't know if you know Flitz from Smosh, but he like predicted this. He was like, all I want to do is go to Egypt to slide down the pyramid. That looks amazing. But I feel like for the other half of the crowd, this doesn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game.
I mean, I really don't know what to say. You know, I feel like first off, Assassin's Creed fans tend to like they definitely have some big demands for this game, right?
Yeah.
There's been take us to feudal Japan, and then there was some sort of
I would rather see that. Is that bad?
So no, I mean, like I think that's one of the things. It's like, hey, we've been asking, or some people have been asking, but is it a fan base that you can like? You're going to make everyone happy in one sweep. So I think the gameplay will speak for itself. One game I am excited for as far as franchises is concerned, and here you're kind of seeing some of the footage that we saw earlier. They did adopt the Eagle. We were talking about from Eagle Flight.
Well,
right?
that was they spent all that time rendering Paris for the last Assassin's Creed that they I think booted up their rendering into this other game, Eagle Flight, and now they've sort of combined both elements, which makes me wonder perhaps there's more to this game than we saw at the initial conference.
And I think because Ubisoft wouldn't miss out on a chance to kind of blow you away with Assassin's Creed at their own conference, that we probably just saw very surface level stuff. So will we see more? That's the question we're going to have answered very, very soon. Far Cry 5 pre-released and with trailer and a bunch of extra footage set in Montana. I'm expecting like a big gameplay playthrough.
Oh, wow. They did some, I mean, when the last Far Cry came out, I was working for Ubisoft. We did some crazy stuff. I don't even remember our animal fighting ring.
Yes, I do.
The entire spectacle around Far Cry is so exciting. Like, I can't wait to see all the different stuff they do. They took somebody to, like, the mountains. They took them to climb Mount Everest. Ubisoft did. So there's going to be some cool stuff for this as well, I'm sure.
Like I said, gameplay probably, maybe even another trailer, learn more about the good guys, the bad guys, the characters you'll be playing, etc. Because a lot of people are really curious. It's like Montana's kind of flat. Sure, there's some mountains, but it's not like there's a bunch of buildings and stuff. And Zeke, our Montana resident, actually, said this. So, we'll have to see what happens. The other thing, Rachel, Ubisoft fans know the name Sam Fisher and this series Splinter Cell.
You think so?
That's one that has been very absent for a long time. Now, based off of what Ubisoft has out, Siege, and, even with Wildlands coming out, potentially Far Cry 5, like, is there room for this? Like, Splinter Cell fans say yes, right? Give us the full stealth espionage and bring Sam Fisher back. He's a badass. Question is will that come true?
That's kind of like the one surprise they really have left for us, right? Everyone else has sort of either called it or we've seen some confirmation or heard that it's definitely absolutely not going to be here. So, yeah, Splinter Cell could be their pocket ace.
I think, it's one of those where it's like, okay, we haven't seen it for a while, so if there would be a time that it would come up, this, even if it's an announcement, right?
Yeah.
I could just see it right now. A head turning around, and then all of a
Just
sudden,
like the
the green goggles, right? Like, that's what you see, and then everyone knows exactly what it is. And I think, for fans, that would probably just appease them. So, not as much as Beyond Good and Evil 2 would, if we got surprised by that.
The Marcus market has its demands.
Can we see the poll one more time for Are You Excited for Assassin's Creed Origins? Just curious to see where we kind of landed on that.
Wow, we're at 72% no?
Maybe today there's just not a whole lot. Maybe there is just Beyond Good and Evil 2 fans in there, and they're mad. Or Far Cry fans. But the Kingdom Battle and the sort of, the crossover with the Rabbids makes a lot of sense. One thing we did talk about is Ubisoft's typically been ahead of the curve when it comes to Nintendo hardware. But we don't know much about what they're going to do with the Switch. So is this a Switch title? That would make a lot of sense,
Well, they've had great motion games before. They've done a lot, like pioneering in the way of some workout games. Their dance games are fantastic. They had a big presence on Kinect. So they can take a lot of that learning and bring it into some really fun controller-based gameplay, I think, for the Switch.
Right.
I would love to see them do some Shaking Rabbits. Those games are great for parties, and the Switch is everywhere in all my friends' homes now. So.
I've recently been playing Zelda. I I have to give them props. I did not, like I play a lot of tablet mobile stuff, but I thought I was going to play some on television, and it's been more just on the go and around, and so it's been
Our
really
makeup artist is
interesting.
playing it like right now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It's a pretty mobile
Went in
console,
this
so
morning.
Ubisoft has a lot of room there to play.
Do you think there's any, you mentioned Just Dance, and I'm not necessarily the first one to be like, yes, another one, but it seems to be like one of those flagship titles. It's hard to imagine they don't have something Just Dance related even at this show.
I really hope so. I mean, that community is really vibrant, really passionate. It's like any other small community. Those racers come out, and you're like, this isn't for me, but there's some like fiery passion behind that. It's the same way with the dance game. So, don't leave that community behind.
And they did. We talked about Eagle Flight earlier, which sort of was experimental Ubisoft sort of showcase. Will we see some VR from Ubisoft? Right? Is there an opportunity there? I don't know. Hypothetical questions we're asking.
Yeah, that's. I mean, they do love to experiment. We saw Bridge Crew as well. They brought us that. So they certainly know the VR space. They certainly can entertain when they get there.
And it was something that Zeke mentioned earlier in our opening show, that one thing he would love to see. Bridge Crew was a surprise last year. Everyone who played it at E3 was like, "This is great. Give it to me now." Zeke said every moment has been fascinating and amazing and so much fun, but he just wants more. This, to me, is just a phenomenal opportunity to potentially say, here's user-created content, right? If people were making their own missions, something to that effect, I think would really help. But any level of expansion or additional content on top of this, I feel like will be very well received based off of how well the game's been doing.
Especially like a lot of dazzle potential. When the floor opens, we're really going to get a sense, because this year the attendees are not just journalists. We have a lot of gaming fans coming in, and I just really want to see how they naturally react to these games, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've seen the tweets from Ubisoft as well. They're saying, hey, this is going to be a big one this year. Will we know all the things going into it? It seems like we might know a couple, but I feel like I'm holding out for the E3 surprise. Right now, the crown is being held by A Way Out. I feel like that was presented during Microsoft. It just looks great. It's right up my alley. I'm ready though for whatever that next big surprise is.
Ubisoft knows how to do a press conference. I mean, they might have lost Aisha this year, but they do know how to entertain. They know how to pace things out. So I know they have to put some surprise in there.
And don't forget, later on today, of course, in between Ubisoft and Sony, we're going to bring you a bunch of games, new information, some live demos. But then the Sony press conference, which I believe begins at 6 p.m. PT, that's going to be happening. And Sony always likes to kind of be the cherry on top of things. They've done that for quite a while. And yeah, last year they sort of put their foot down and say, okay, we get it.
They put their foot down and the square lit up, Marcus.
And Kojima walked down, but they showed us a lot of games. And we loved it because Microsoft then was like, okay, cool, we can do that too. Boom, here's all our games. Getting another year of that would just be phenomenal. I expect some VR news out of them because they've been having great PSVR sales. But anything you're super stoked about, maybe as far
coming
as
up for Sony?
Yeah.
Ooh, you know what? They've really been doing some expansions for Final Fantasy 15. That's a game that I've really been going full completionist on. So maybe if they can tease out something else there, they've had the stories there with Ignis prompt. Standard RPG stuff. But other than that, like, they are one of the conferences that always have some innovation as well.
I think there's also a lot of, I haven't seen it mentioned over the last couple of days, but there is, people want to see Final Fantasy VII Remake, and are we going to see more there? There was this Kingdom Hearts 3 trailer that was released recently.
I know you guys are so excited, but do you think they set a date when they said that trailer, right? So do you think we're going to see anything ahead of time, or maybe perhaps the same trailer but in English teasing the same date?
Right, so we don't know, but maybe it'll happen. It sounds like we've got about less than a minute until Ubisoft begins their press conference. Again, the things we think we'll see, like maybe a new Splinter Cell. We're definitely going to see more on Assassin's Creed Origins. Far Cry 5 will make an appearance. We're positive, at least we're hoping, that we get a release date for South Park Fractured But Whole. Maybe Watch Dogs 3. I don't know.
And Mario and Rabbids.
And let's go ahead and do it. It's the Ubisoft press conference.
Ubisoft. Yves Guillemot, everyone please. Yves Guillemot. Hello. Yves, I believe the honor is yours. Would you do the honors, please?
Yes, sure. Let the games begin.